Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you've shared, maybe articles, notes, research, and really get into them to find the key insights for you.
Yeah, we're here to sort of guide you through the material, help you see not just what it's saying, but, why it might matter, how it all connects.
And today we're sinking our teeth into something pretty thought-provoking. It's from excerpts of an essay called Trying to Make Sense of Your Life is What's Actually Holding You Back.
Wow, okay. That title alone kind of stomps you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, could trying to logically map out your life's trajectory, how you got from A to B and where C might be, could that actually be, well, unhelpful?
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack the arguments in this essay. We'll look at this really important distinction it makes between different kinds of understanding.
And explore maybe why some things just resist logic and where the source thinks real clarity comes from.
Okay, let's get into it.
So right out of the gate, the essay says, look, there is self-understanding work you definitely should be doing. Absolutely.
Like what kind of work?
Things like making sense of your feelings, understanding where your thoughts come from, figuring out your beliefs, your values, what you feel is missing.
Okay, that internal stuff. Looking at what you're contributing,
Right.
maybe.
Exactly. That's all presented as, necessary groundwork,
Mm.
foundational self-awareness.
Right. But then,
But then, and this is where it gets really counterintuitive, I think it flips and says what you should stop doing is trying to make sense of your life's trajectory, the overall path.
wait, hang on. Why, if understanding my feelings and thoughts is good, why is understanding the path itself bad or holding me back?
Well, the source argues that when you try to make sense of the whole trajectory, you often start seeing it as this external thing that controls you, instead of seeing how you created or navigated it.
Ah, okay.
You're using the wisdom or perspective you have now and trying to force fit your past actions into that current logic, judging the you back then by today's standards.
I think I get it. It's like looking back at a really messy, maybe spontaneous paint made over years, and then trying to pretend you planned every single splatter from the start using some grand theory you just came up with.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
You're trying to make the present reality justify or logically flow from a past that, well, probably didn't feel that logical at the time. And the essay says that is the trap.
Okay.
And it makes a clear distinction here between, say, using logic day to day or being mindful, and this specific act of trying to make sense of the grand trajectory.
How does it separate those? Because logic and making sense sounds, pretty similar on the surface.
They do, but the essay frames them differently. Using logic or mindfulness is described as, like, methodical. It's about present awareness, using your current understanding to make choices, to act on your desires now moving forward.
So logic is a tool for the present and future, for action.
That's the idea. Purposeful steps based on what you know now. But trying to make sense of the trajectory, that's seen as looking backward. Looking at the results of past actions and puzzling over how they happened. Trying to impose a narrative.
Got it. One's forward-looking for navigation, the other is backward-looking, trying to impose order on, well, maybe chaos.
That seems to be the core idea, yeah. And it really leans into this by saying, you need to embrace things that simply won't make sense in that neat, logical way.
What kinds of things?
Well, it suggests some questions just don't have logical answers. Or maybe the answers just lead to more questions. And, crucially, that some insights, some real understanding, can only come from actually living through something, seeing it through, trying.
Ah, so direct experience over just thinking about it.
Very much so. It gives examples like love, grace, joy, beauty. The essay flat out says these are rarely logical.
Rarely logical.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. You can use logic with them, of course, planning a date, managing resources for an art project, but to really grasp them, to fully see them, the essay says you need a different point of understanding.
A different point of understanding. What does that feel like? Is it intuition, emotion, something else?
It hints that it's maybe beyond that linear cause and effect thinking. It uses this phrase. It describes all things in their purest state as being confusingly singularly standing.
Confusingly, singularly standing.
Yeah.
That's poetic. What does that evoke?
It suggests things that are just themselves, unique, maybe hard to categorize easily. Their existence defies a simple why or how. They feel magical, the source says, precisely because they're mysterious. Unknown origins, maybe, but you feel their presence, their ending.
So you can't just analyze them intellectually.
Right. The essay says there's nothing to do but to live them and to see. It's about being present with them, observing, experiencing, not dissecting them with logic.
Okay, so the magic is in the not knowing, the lack of a neat explanation. And trying to force one is where we get trapped, like that crap of justification it mentions.
Exactly. The essay makes a pretty bold statement there. It says people who kind of waste their lives, they search for reasons to love rather than ways to love.
Ooh, reasons to love rather than ways to love. Say more about that distinction.
It feels crucial, right?
Hmm.
It's like instead of finding ways to act lovingly or to express joy or embody it, they get stuck looking for logical justifications, reasons why they deserve to feel happy or why this person is the right person to love based on a checklist. They try to build these intellectual arguments, these avenues, the essay says, to justify their happiness instead of just letting themselves feel it, experience it.
So it's almost like using logic as a shield
Yeah,
to keep joy at bay if it doesn't fit the mental blueprint.
precisely. The essay puts it bluntly. They use misguided logic to hold back from their happiness rather than facilitate it. Logic becomes the barrier, the reason not to embrace something good if it doesn't line up with the plan.
And I guess that ties right into what the essay says about uncertainty and the unexpected, because those definitely mess up any logical plan.
Absolutely. The essay acknowledges, yes, some things in life you chose consciously. The reasons were maybe clear then or seem clear now, but then there are all those other things. Events, people, opportunities that seem like the opposite of what you'd want.
Or at least the opposite of what your past self thought they wanted, based on that old logic.
Exactly. And the essay claims those unexpected off-script things are just as important, if not more so.
Wow, that's a big claim.
It is. And it points out that understanding isn't always instant. Some whys become clear right away, maybe. Others, maybe years later. And some things,
Yeah.
you might look back and honestly say, I never understood why that happened.
And the source stresses that not understanding it will not make it any less so. It still occurred. It's still part of your reality, whether you can explain it neatly or not.
Which really makes you think, doesn't it? If not understanding doesn't change the fact of it, maybe understanding isn't always the ultimate goal. The essay even suggests sometimes the point is to experience not knowing and confusion.
Okay, but that sounds potentially difficult. How do you know if it's valuable, productive confusion versus just feeling totally lost and stuck because you don't have a map?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, isn't it?
Mhm.
The essay doesn't offer a simple checklist, but it really emphasizes the potential value that can come out of that state of not knowing. It argues that what is born of your uncertainty is sometimes more important than not having been certain in the first place.
So navigating through the confusion itself builds something. Resilience, new perspectives.
That seems to be the implication. Maybe it forces you to develop different skills or opens doors you never would have considered if you'd stuck rigidly to a plan. The process of dealing with the uncertainty is where the value lies.
The experience itself.
Yes. And this leads straight into the essay's big punchline about where clarity actually comes from.
Which is
Action over analysis.
the quote. Clarity comes from doing, not thinking about doing. Very direct.
Super direct. It uses really simple examples. You find out if you like living somewhere by living there. You figure out a relationship by being in it, trying. The certainty, the understanding of the path or the outcome often comes after the action, not before.
Right, you can't think your way into knowing how it feels. And I remember it mentioning something about seeking comfort in things that hurt.
Yes, it makes that point quite strongly, that often we stay stuck in patterns or situations that are uncomfortable, even painful, just because they're familiar. The known discomfort feels safer somehow.
Safer than stepping into the unknown.
Safer than stepping into the discomfort of something new, something better, something unknown and foreign and not aligned with what you once thought you wanted, or what fits that old story you were trying to make sense of.
The fear of the unfamiliar, even if it might be much better, can be paralyzing.
It really can. And so, if something unexpected does happen, a curveball that disrupts your plans or feels totally wrong according to the old script, the essay insists that doesn't automatically mean it is wrong or bad.
Just memes.
It just means you didn't see it coming. You didn't know well enough to have chosen it back when you were making the original plan. Your map was incomplete.
Which brings us right back to that idea of trying to make sense of life by checking if the old story checks out.
Exactly. It's like you're constantly looking over your shoulder, asking your past self, who had less information, different desires maybe, if they approve of your current life,
That sounds exhausting.
and futile, according to the essay. It says, you're looking for answers in people that don't exist. That past version of you isn't here anymore. Their criteria aren't relevant to the choices you face now.
You can't get advice from a ghost on how to live today. So, trying to think your way into the right trajectory, the one that makes perfect logical sense from start to finish, is pointless.
That's the argument. Clarity emerges from the living, the acting, the engaging with reality as it is, not from analyzing a past that's gone or a future that isn't here yet.
Okay. So, where does that leave us? How does the essay suggest we approach living a good life then?
It boiled down to something quite simple, really. It comes from choosing to work with what you have, right here, right now.
Accepting that you don't always get to choose the circumstances, the raw materials you're
That's a
given.
huge part of it. Accepting that the what isn't always up to you, and then having the trust or maybe learning through experience that you are always given what you need to use.
Especially when you don't realize you need to use it. Wow.
Yeah, it's a powerful idea. Trusting that even the confusing bits, the unexpected challenges, the things that don't fit the narrative, those are actually the necessary tools or ingredients for whatever comes next.
So the focus shifts completely, away from trying to understand the grand design or build this perfect logical story.
And towards just engaging with what's right in front of you. Using the materials at hand, trusting that they are the right materials, even if you don't see how yet.
It's less about mapping the entire journey in advance and more about skillfully navigating the terrain you're actually walking on.
Exactly. Building with what's there,
Yeah.
rather than analyzing the map you thought you had.
Okay, let's try and pull the threads of this deep dive together. We've explored this really quite radical idea from the essay that while understanding your inner world feelings, thoughts is vital.
Mm,
Trying to force this neat, logical story onto the external path of your life, trying to make it all make sense retrospectively, might actually be what's holding you back.
right. We saw how the essay suggests that some of the most important things, love, joy, beauty, maybe grace, often operate outside of that strict logic. They belong more to a realm of mystery, maybe, where clarity comes from experiencing them, not dissecting them.
And that confusion, that uncertainty, it's not necessarily something to be avoided at all costs. It can actually be fertile ground for growth, for discovering things you wouldn't have otherwise.
Definitely. And the big takeaway seems to be that trying to get clarity by checking if your current life aligns with some past self's limited view, that's a dead end.
Because you're looking for answers from someone who doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. True clarity, the essay argues, doesn't come from thinking about the path. It comes from doing, from
Yep.
acting, from engaging with the circumstances you're actually in.
So what does this mean for you, listening right now, navigating your own path? It feels like an invitation, perhaps, to relax a bit, to ease up on the need to have a perfect explanation for every single detour or unexpected event in your life story.
Yeah, and maybe shift that energy instead. Focus on engaging with what's right here, right now, working with the actual materials you've been given, the situations, the feelings, the opportunities, the challenges, even when, maybe especially when, they don't fit the neat script you once had in mind.
And that leads us to a final thought for you to chew on, drawn from the source material itself. If clarity really does come from doing, not just thinking about doing, and if you truly are always given what you need, even when you don't recognize it at the time,
Then what's one small action, maybe just one tiny step you could take today, right where you are, without needing the full map, without needing to know exactly how it fits the story so far or where it will lead, just doing it?